Good evening and welcome. How people slept before electricity and why they slept better. Tonight, we are taking a slow journey back in time. Long before glowing screens, bright streetlights, and the gentle hum of electricity, night was something completely different. Darkness arrived gradually, quietly covering the world like a soft blanket. Imagine a world where sunset truly meant the end of the day. No television, no smartphones, no emails waiting to be answered, no bright advertisements lighting up the streets. Only the fading colors of the evening sky, the warm glow of a fireplace, and the comforting sounds of nature preparing for another peaceful night. As you listen, allow your mind to slow down. There is nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to accomplish. Simply relax. Breathe naturally, and let the story carry you gently into history. Tonight, we will discover how people slept before electricity, and why many historians believe their nights may have been healthier than ours today. Let's begin. Thousands of years ago, human life followed one simple clock, the sun. Every morning, people woke with the first light spreading across the horizon. Birds greeted the dawn before anyone else was awake. Farmers stepped outside to check the weather. Bakers prepared fresh bread while the air was still cool. Children helped with simple chores before breakfast. The day moved slowly. Without clocks hanging on every wall, there was little need to hurry. Time was measured differently. The position of the sun, the length of shadows, the changing colors of the sky. People understood morning, afternoon, sunset, and night not by numbers, but by nature itself. As evening approached, something remarkable happened. The entire world began to slow down. The fields became quieter. Animals returned home. The sounds of work slowly disappeared. Villages became peaceful as families gathered together. There were no bright city lights reaching toward the stars. Instead, darkness returned exactly as nature intended. Every single evening for thousands of generations. Today, true darkness is surprisingly rare. In many modern cities, the night sky never becomes completely dark. Artificial lights glow from homes, office buildings, highways, shopping centers, and electronic devices. Even while we sleep, tiny lights continue blinking around us. But before electricity, darkness was complete. Once the sun disappeared below the horizon, the world became calm and mysterious. People respected the night, not because they feared it alone, but because they understood it. Night was not considered wasted time. It was an essential part of life. Preparing for bedtime began long before anyone actually climbed into bed. As daylight faded, families started finishing their final tasks. Animals were safely brought into barns. Firewood was collected for the night. Water was carried inside.
Simple meals were cooked over open fires. The smell of fresh bread, roasted vegetables, and warm soup often filled small homes. After dinner, dishes were washed by hand. Children listened carefully as older family members shared stories that had been passed down for generations. Some stories explained the stars. Others told of brave travelers, distant kingdoms, or lessons about kindness and wisdom. Storytelling was one of humanity's oldest forms of evening entertainment. There was no need for expensive technology, only a warm fire, comfortable silence, and familiar voices. Candles were precious. Oil lamps required fuel. Both created only a small amount of light. Because of this, people rarely stayed awake for many unnecessary hours after sunset. Every candle burned represented money. Every extra hour of light consumed valuable resources. Darkness encouraged rest, instead of fighting against the night.
The night itself sounded very different from today. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine standing outside a small village nearly 500 years ago. There were no airplanes overhead, no passing cars, no distant highways, no electrical transformers quietly buzzing. Instead, you hear leaves moving gently in the wind, owls calling across nearby forests, crickets singing their endless songs, perhaps a horse quietly shifting inside a stable. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barks only once before everything becomes silent again. The silence would feel almost unbelievable to modern ears. Researchers today often describe ancient nights as naturally peaceful. The human brain evolved for thousands of years in exactly this environment. Darkness, cooler temperatures, gentle natural sounds, very little interruption. Many sleep scientists believe these conditions supported healthy sleep cycles. Without artificial light delaying bedtime, the body naturally produced melatonin shortly after sunset. Melatonin is often called the body's sleep hormone. It gently tells the brain that night has arrived. Long before scientists discovered hormones, people simply followed these natural signals. When they became sleepy, they slept. Beds themselves looked very different from modern mattresses. For wealthy families, beds could be large wooden structures with curtains that helped keep warmth inside during cold nights. The curtains also offered privacy in homes where several people shared the same room. For ordinary people, sleeping arrangements were much simpler. Many slept on straw mattresses. Others used sacks filled with dried grass. Some rested on wooden benches covered with blankets made from wool or linen. Comfort depended greatly on where someone lived and how much money they had. Yet even the simplest beds served their purpose. After long hours of physical work, most people fell asleep quickly. Their bodies had earned deep rest through movement rather than sitting for long hours indoors. Modern life often leaves people mentally exhausted but physically inactive.
Historical life was usually the opposite. Hard work during daylight naturally prepared the body for sleep.
Perhaps the greatest difference between then and now was not the bed. It was the rhythm of life itself. Modern society often expects activity 24 hours a day. Stores remain open late, messages arrive instantly, work can follow us home through phones and computers. Even after sunset, our brains remain busy. Centuries ago, night offered permission to stop. Nobody expected immediate replies. There were no notifications, no glowing screens asking for attention. The darkness itself reminded everyone that the day's work had ended. There would always be another sunrise, another opportunity, another day. And so, families slowly settled into silence. One candle after another was gently blown out. The fireplace became quieter. The stars shined brighter overhead. The moon traveled silently across the sky. Inside small homes across Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas, millions of people drifted peacefully into sleep, not because they had perfect lives, but because nature quietly guided them toward rest. As our journey continues, we'll discover one of history's most fascinating sleep habits, a pattern that most people today have never even heard of. Many people didn't sleep through the entire night. Instead, they experienced something historians now call the first sleep and the second sleep. It may sound unusual today, but for centuries, this was simply normal life. We'll explore that forgotten nighttime rhythm in the next chapter. Until then, imagine the world growing darker, quieter, and calmer. A world where the night truly belonged to sleep. Part 2. The Forgotten Rhythm of the Night. As the last candle faded and the fire settled into glowing embers, most families drifted into a peaceful sleep. But something surprising often happened a few hours later. Many people woke up, not because of an alarm, not because of stress, and not because something was wrong. They simply woke up. To us, this might sound like a sleep problem, but for much of human history, it was completely normal. Historians called this pattern segmented sleep or biphasic sleep. People of the time had their own names for it. They spoke of the first sleep and the second sleep. This was not a rare custom followed by a few villages. Evidence suggests that it was common across much of Europe, and similar nighttime patterns have been observed in other parts of the world as well. For centuries, people expected the night to unfold in two peaceful chapters rather than one long stretch. Imagine yourself living in a small English village in the year 1650. The sun has already disappeared behind the rolling hills. Your evening meal has been finished. The fire crackles softly inside your cottage. After saying goodnight to your family, you lie down beneath thick wool blankets. Within minutes, you fall into a deep sleep. This is your first sleep. It usually lasts around 3 or 4 hours. Outside, the village remains completely silent. Only the wind moves gently through the trees. An owl calls somewhere in the darkness. The stars shine brightly above a world untouched by electric light. Then,
Sometime around midnight, your eyes slowly open. There is no panic, no frustration, no thought that something has gone wrong. You simply sit quietly in the darkness. Your body feels rested. Your mind feels calm. This peaceful period between sleeps could last anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours, and people used this time in many different ways.
Some quietly added another log to the fireplace. Others whispered gentle prayers. Many reflected on their dreams. Dreams were often considered meaningful. People believed they could contain guidance, warnings, or spiritual messages. Without televisions or phones demanding attention, there was space for quiet thought. Some husbands and wives talked softly together. Others simply listened to the peaceful sounds of the night. A few read by candlelight if they could afford candles. Monks often used these hours for prayer and meditation. Farmers might quietly prepare tools for the coming day. Writers from the Middle Ages frequently mentioned this period as naturally as we might mention eating breakfast. To them, waking in the middle of the night required no explanation. It was simply part of life. Modern historians discovered many references to first and second sleep while studying old diaries, letters, medical books, and court records. People casually wrote things like, "after my first sleep," or "before my second sleep." The phrases appeared so often that historians realized they were describing a forgotten nightly routine. One of the most fascinating discoveries came from old medical advice. Doctors sometimes recommended taking certain medicines during the quiet time between the first and second sleep. Others suggested that this was the best time for prayer, reflection, or peaceful conversation. No one treated the midnight awakening as an illness. It was expected, accepted, even welcomed. Today, many people wake briefly during the night and immediately become worried. They check the clock. They wonder why they are awake. Some reach for their phones. Others begin thinking about tomorrow's responsibilities. Stress quickly replaces relaxation. Ironically, anxiety about being awake often makes falling asleep much more difficult. Researchers have suggested that our ancestors may have experienced these awakenings differently because they expected them. There was no pressure to sleep continuously for 8 straight hours. Instead, the night unfolded naturally. The first sleep, a peaceful, wakeful period, then the second sleep. The body followed its own rhythm. Interestingly, scientists have explored this idea in modern sleep studies. In one well-known experiment, volunteers spent several weeks without artificial lighting. They experienced long periods of natural darkness every evening. At first, they slept much like modern people, but after several weeks, something remarkable happened. Many participants naturally began sleeping in 2 separate periods with a quiet interval of wakefulness in between. Their bodies seemed to return to an older biological rhythm. While modern sleep research continues to explore this phenomenon, the findings have encouraged scientists to ask an intriguing question. Was uninterrupted 8-hour sleep
always natural? Or did electric lighting gradually reshape the way humans rest? The answer may be more complicated than many of us imagine. Of course, life was not perfect. Winter nights could be bitterly cold. Storms sometimes rattled fragile homes. Illness still existed. Parents cared for crying babies. Animals occasionally disturbed the quiet. Yet, despite these challenges, the rhythm of darkness remained remarkably consistent. Night belonged to rest, not productivity, not endless entertainment, simply rest.
During the quiet hours between sleeps, the sky itself offered a breathtaking display. Without light pollution, the stars appeared almost unbelievably bright. The Milky Way stretched across the heavens like a glowing river. Countless constellations filled the darkness. Many people knew these stars by heart. Sailors used them for navigation. Farmers watched them to mark the changing seasons. Children learned their stories from grandparents sitting beside warm fires. The night sky was more than beautiful. It was part of everyday life. Today, millions of people live beneath skies so bright that they rarely see the Milky Way at all. In many ways, electricity gave us incredible convenience, but it also slowly separated us from one of humanity's oldest companions, the natural night. As the hours passed, tiredness gently returned. People climbed back beneath their blankets. The fire had grown quieter. The air felt cooler. Outside, the eastern horizon remained dark, but somewhere beyond it, the sun was slowly preparing to rise. Without effort, without alarm clocks, without glowing screens, the second sleep arrived naturally. This sleep often continued until the first hints of dawn painted the sky with soft shades of blue and gold. Birdsong gradually replaced the silence. Roosters announced the coming morning. Another peaceful day was about to begin. For countless generations, this rhythm shaped human life. Sleep, quiet reflection. Sleep again, then sunrise. A pattern almost forgotten today, yet hidden inside old books and historical records, its memory quietly remains. In the next chapter, we will step inside the homes of ordinary families and discover how candlelight, fireplaces, and simple evening rituals gently prepared people for a restful night long before electricity changed the world forever. Part 3. Homes lit by fire and candlelight. As the night deepened and the world outside fell into complete darkness, life inside homes did not stop entirely at once. Instead, it softened, it slowed down, and it moved gently toward rest, guided by the warm glow of fire and the small flickering light of candles. Before electricity, light was not something you could simply switch on. It had to be created, maintained, and carefully conserved. Because of this, every source of light carried meaning, and every moment spent in that light
was intentional. In most homes across medieval Europe, colonial America, and many other regions of the world, the fireplace was the heart of the house. It was not just used for cooking food. It was not just for warmth. It was also the center of evening life. As the sun disappeared, families gathered closer to the fire. Wood crackled softly. Flames danced against stone walls. Shadows moved slowly across the room, like silent companions of the night. The fire was often the only steady light source for hours, and people lived around it with patience, not urgency.
Unlike today, there was no bright overhead lighting filling every corner of a room. Light was limited, and because it was limited, people respected it. A single candle could take hours of careful work to produce. Animal fat, beeswax, or oil was used to create light that was often dim and short-lived. Candles were expensive for many families, so they were used sparingly, often only when absolutely necessary. This meant that evenings were not filled with constant brightness. Instead, they were filled with soft shadows and gentle transitions between light and darkness. As the evening progressed, families completed their final tasks under the glow of firelight. Women might sew or repair clothing by hand. Men might sharpen tools or prepare items for the next day. Children often sat nearby, listening to stories or simply watching the flames. There was no rush to finish everything quickly. Time moved differently, slower, more naturally. When tasks were done, there was no temptation to stay awake scrolling, watching, or consuming endless entertainment, because such distractions did not exist. Once the work was finished, rest became the natural next step.
The quality of light itself also influenced the human body in ways people did not yet understand. Today, we know that bright artificial light, especially blue light from screens, can delay the release of melatonin, the hormone that helps regulate sleep. But before electricity, this interference did not exist. Firelight and candlelight are much softer and warmer in color. They signal the body that night has truly arrived. So even without scientific knowledge, people naturally became sleepier earlier in the evening. Their environment guided their biology, quietly and consistently. Inside a typical home, evening routines were simple but deeply meaningful. After dinner, dishes were washed by hand, often using water heated over the fire. Clothes were folded or set aside. Small repairs were completed. Beds were prepared. Straw mattresses were fluffed. Blankets were adjusted to protect against the cold night air. Even these simple actions were part of a familiar rhythm that repeated every single day. There was comfort in this repetition, a sense of stability, a sense that the world, despite its difficulties, was still predictable.
you.